This is my story. I am Jim.
The Manila Gamble, how I lost $25,000 and found my peace. Alright guys, settle in, get your coffee, because what I'm about to tell you is one of those stories that I genuinely wish someone had told me before I got on that plane. And if even one person watching this avoids what happened to me, then every uncomfortable minute of telling this story is worth it. My name is Jim, I'm 56 years old, I'm an ex-Marine. I built a fencing business from the ground up in California over 10 years, one truck, one pair of gloves, and the kind of stubbornness that either makes you successful or kills you, and in my case it did the first thing. I moved to the Philippines in 2021, just after COVID, looking for a change of pace, a different chapter, and I found one. Just not the chapter I was expecting. This is the story of how I lost 25,000 US dollars, how I found out, how I dealt with it, and what I want every foreigner, every expat, every guy sitting at home swiping through a dating app right now to understand before they make the same mistakes I did. So let's go back to the beginning. I want to start with something that might be uncomfortable to hear, because I think it's the most important thing I can say before we get into the details of what happened to me. The Philippines is a beautiful country. The people are warm, the culture is rich, the food is incredible, and yes, the women are stunning. I'm not here to trash the Philippines. I'm not here to tell you everyone is out to scam you. That's not true and it would be unfair. But I am here to tell you something that took me a very expensive lesson to understand. When you are a foreigner, especially a Western foreigner, especially an older Western foreigner, you are walking around with a target on your back that you cannot see. Not because you're stupid, not because you're weak, but because the economic gap between your world and this world is so large that to some people, and I want to be clear, I said some people, you represent a solution to a problem they have been living with their entire life. That doesn't make them evil, it makes the situation dangerous, and dangerous situations require your eyes to be open. Keep that in mind as I tell you this story, because there were signs, there were always signs. And I missed every single one of them. So the dating app. I'd been on it for 3 weeks. I was 56, she was 28, and before you say anything, yes, I knew the gap was significant. 28 years, I'm not going to pretend I didn't notice. But here's the thing that got me, here's the thing that bypassed every rational alarm I had, she messaged me first. And the conversation that followed was unlike anything else I'd had on that app. Her name was Anna. She was a manager at a Jollibee, that's a huge fast food chain here in the Philippines, very respectable position, solid income, a working professional woman. She had this warmth to her that you could actually feel through a screen, which in my experience is genuinely rare. We talked for 3 months. Morning messages, late-night calls, real conversations about real things. Her family in Zamboanga, my years in the Marines, why I'd left California, what we both wanted from life. Now here's warning number one, and pay attention to this. 3 months of daily contact, of deep conversations, of feeling like you truly know someone. That feeling can be manufactured. I'm not saying it always is. But the foundation of every successful long-distance romance scam, and I'm not even saying that's necessarily what this was at this stage, but the foundation of it is exactly this: time, consistency, and emotional investment. By the time you meet someone in person after 3 months of that, your brain has already made the decision. You've already written the story, and that makes you blind. I was blind. I booked the flight, I landed at Ninoy Aquino Airport, which if you've never been is a sensory experience in itself, the heat, the noise, the sheer density of Manila hitting you all at once. And I came through arrivals and she was standing there in a yellow dress and she looked exactly like her photos. Exactly. And I thought, yeah, this is real. This is worth the flight. And honestly, that part probably was real. I believe she had genuine feelings for me or something close to them. But here's what I know now that I didn't know then: genuine feelings and genuine intentions are not the same thing. You can feel something for a person and be willing to use that person. Those two things can exist in the same human being at the same time, remember that. We stayed at an airbnb for 2 weeks, it was good, really good. We agreed to make a go of it, a real relationship, eyes open, both committed. I meant every word of it. I'm not someone who does things halfway. A month in, she called me with an idea. And this is where I need you to stop whatever you're doing and really listen, because this is the moment. This is the moment that every story like mine has. The moment where the groundwork that was laid, the 3 months of calls, the airport, the 2 weeks together, the relationship, all of that groundwork gets used. Not necessarily consciously, not necessarily with calculated malice, but used. She said her family in Zamboanga were fishermen. They knew the waters, they knew the trade, they'd been doing it for years. What they lacked was the right boat. With a proper vessel, she said, the operation could be genuinely profitable. She had a figure in mind. 10,000 US dollars. The deal was 50-50 on the profits. I'd be a silent investor. She'd manage the family relationship. Warning number two, and this is a big one, burn this into your brain. If someone you are in a romantic relationship with, I don't care how long you've been together, I don't care how real it feels, if they come to you with a business proposal involving their family, you do not say yes. You do not say, let me think about it. You say, I would love to support your family's livelihood. Let's visit Zamboanga together. Let me meet your brother. Let me see the operation. Let me look at the paperwork. Let me be there when the boat is commissioned. If that response is met with hesitation, with excuses, with reasons why that's complicated or unnecessary, you have your answer without spending a single dollar. I did not do any of that. I wired the 10,000. 3 months later, the boat was supposedly finished. I'd never seen it. I'd never been to Zamboanga. I'd seen some photos she showed me on her phone of something being built, of men working, of what looked like progress. But I had never, and I am genuinely embarrassed to tell you this, I had never asked for a photograph of the completed vessel. $25,000 lesson number 1. Always, always, always ask for photographic proof of anything you are investing in. Ideally video. Ideally a live call where you can see it in real time. Ideally you standing next to it in person. But we hadn't got there yet because first there was a complication. The motor, her brother told her, was too small. For the waters they planned to fish, the original motor wasn't going to cut it. They needed an upgrade. Another $15,000. Now, and I want to be really careful here because I don't want to give you the impression I was a complete fool, because this is a genuinely sophisticated play. The way this was presented was entirely reasonable. Boat builds go over budget. Specifications change, the logic held together. And by this point I was $10,000 in, which meant that walking away felt like throwing away $10,000, when in reality I was being guided toward throwing away 25. This is called the sunk cost trap, and it is one of the oldest plays in the book. Once you've invested enough that walking away feels like a loss, the ask for more becomes much easier to make and much harder to refuse. Remember that number. Whatever you've already spent is gone either way. The question is never, how much have I already put in? The question is always, does this next dollar make sense on its own merits? My next dollar, 15,000 of them, did not make sense on its own merits, but I sent them anyway. Total 25,000 US dollars in the water. Month 1 after the boat was supposedly operational. Nothing, no returns. Her brother said it was startup costs, nets, ice boxes, fuel, the initial outlay of getting an operation moving. Reasonable, I thought, fine. Month 2, still nothing. Labor costs ran higher than expected. The fishermen they'd hired were more expensive than projected. Give it time, she said. Now here's warning number 3, and this one is specifically for the guys who are in relationships over here, not just the investors. When money is involved, when you have put significant money into something connected to your partner, you cannot let love be the reason you avoid asking hard questions. I know that sounds obvious. I know you're sitting there thinking, of course, that's common sense. I thought so too. And then I watched myself go month after month without pushing, because I cared about her, because pushing felt like I was accusing her of something, because I didn't want to damage what we had. That instinct, the instinct to protect the relationship at the expense of protecting yourself, is the exact instinct that people who run these scams are counting on. Your love for them is their most powerful tool. Never forget that. Month 3, I called her. Voice call, not a text. I needed to hear the shape of what she said, not just the words. I told her plainly, 3 months, nothing across. I needed to see something. Then finally, and honestly I'm still shaking my head at how long it took me, I asked for a photograph of the boat. The photo arrived. I looked at it for a long time. And let me tell you something about having spent a decade working with physical materials, wood, metal, concrete, soil. You develop an eye. You learn to read the surface of things, to see the difference between what is new and what has been out in the world for a while. That boat in the photograph was not new. It had the settled, slightly weathered quality of something that had already lived a life before my money entered the picture. I almost closed the photo and told myself I was imagining things. But then I saw the vessel registration number. Right there in the corner of the image, almost hidden, the way important things often are, not hidden on purpose, just overlooked because you weren't looking for it. I wrote the number down. This is warning number 4, and it is the most practical one I'm going to give you today. In the Philippines, every licensed municipal fishing vessel is registered in a national database called BOTAR, the Municipal Fishing Boat and Gear Registration System, managed through the local Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. Every boat has a number. Every number connects to a record that tells you the vessel name, the registered owner, and crucially the year it was built. If you are ever putting money into a fishing boat, a vessel, anything marine related in this country, you go to the local BFAR office. You bring the vessel number, the boat name, whatever information you have, and you check the record. This information is public, it exists to be verified. And it will tell you everything you need to know about what you are actually buying. I know this now, I did not know it when I should have. I called a friend who had contacts in Zamboanga. He went to the office. He had to, in his words, convince the clerk with a bar of chocolate, and look, that's the Philippines, sometimes it's a bar of chocolate, you work with what you've got. The clerk ran the vessel number. The boat was built in 2018. Not new, not built from my money, not registered in any family name Anna had ever mentioned. I sat in my apartment, and I did the maths that I had been avoiding for 3 months. $25,000 gone. Now here is where being an ex-Marine actually mattered. Because what happened inside me in that moment was not what you might expect. There was no explosion, no breakdown. There was a very fast, very cold assessment of the situation and then a decision and then execution. I sent Anna a message telling her exactly what I had found and exactly how I found it. Her response was fury at me for doing the background check, for investigating. And I want you to hear this because it is important. When the person who has taken your money responds to being caught not with remorse, not with explanation, not with tears, but with anger that you found out, that is not the response of someone who is innocent and hurt. That is the response of someone whose script has run out. I went to the airman while she was at work. I packed her belongings in 2 bags. I brought them to the front desk, explained to the staff that she was no longer a guest, confirmed with security that her access was revoked. I sent her one text telling her where her things were and that we were done. I told her that she and her family had executed an effective operation and that whatever degree of involvement she personally had, I held her completely responsible. She called 20 times, I did not answer once. 3 weeks of messages followed, I read none of them. After 3 weeks the messages stopped. This is the last warning I'll give you, and it might be the hardest one to hear. When it goes wrong, and I'm not saying it will, but if it does, you cannot negotiate your way out of it. You cannot have the conversation that makes it make sense. You cannot find the explanation that turns $25,000 back into a boat. The only move is the clean exit, the immediate exit, and the absolute refusal to engage further. Every response you send, every call you take, every conversation you have extends the situation and gives the other party opportunities you do not want to give them. Cut clean, cut fast, move on. I met Rachel 6 weeks later. She's from Legazpi down in Bicol, and she came to Manila for work the way a lot of people from the provinces do, with ambition and the practical resilience of someone who has genuinely built themselves up from nothing. She's not Anna. She doesn't have Anna's specific brand of warmth that reads perfectly across a screen from 10,000 miles away. What she has is something quieter and something I have come to value much more: consistency. She is the same person on a Tuesday afternoon that she is on a special occasion. That matters more than almost anything else. I told her about Anna early, not everything, but enough. Enough so that the rules I put in place were clearly not about distrust of her specifically, but about what I had learned about myself and about navigating relationships here as a foreigner. She could not move her things in, she could visit by invitation only. Even though I was falling for her, and I could feel it, the gravity of it, the falling was going to happen within a structure this time. She accepted that without drama. That too told me something important. 6 months on, she's still here, the rules are still the rules, and she has never not once proposed a business idea. I told her in the first month, that topic is closed, forever. If you have a great idea for a business, I am happy to hear about it and never invest in it. She laughed, she has never raised it since. So let me bring it home. If you are a foreigner living in or visiting the Philippines, if you are on a dating app talking to a Filipino woman, if you are already in a relationship here and you're thinking about investing money into something connected to her family, I need you to hear this clearly. The Philippines is not a scam, the people are not scammers. But the conditions exist here for a very specific kind of exploitation, and it targets people exactly like me, older foreign men who have means, who are looking for connection, and who let that search for connection lower the guard that they have spent a lifetime building. Don't invest in anything you cannot physically verify. Not a boat, not a business, not a tricycle franchise, nothing. If it cannot be visited, photographed on a live call, documented with paperwork and independently verified, the answer is no. The answer is always no. Don't let love be the reason you skip due diligence. The two things can coexist. You can care deeply about a person and require that the practical things be done properly. In fact, if the person you are with responds to your due diligence with anger rather than understanding, that is your answer right there. Know the systems, the BFAR office, the BOTAR database, the local government registries. This country has infrastructure for verification. Use it before you need it, not after. And finally, if it does go wrong, cut clean and cut fast. Your dignity and your remaining finances are more important than closure. You will not get the conversation that makes it make sense. Walk away. I walked away. And 6 months later I'm sitting here with a woman from Legazpi who has never once asked me for money, who shows up the same way every single day and who laughed at the business proposal rule and has never tested it since. $25,000 is a lot to pay for an education. But I'll tell you this. I'm a lot smarter than I was, and if this video stops even one of you from writing that wire transfer, then every uncomfortable minute of telling this story was worth it. Stay safe out there, be smart, and if you're dating in the Philippines, enjoy it because it can be something genuinely wonderful. Just keep your eyes open the whole time. If you have a similar story, I would love to hear about it.